If you're planning a trip to America, this video might save you from serious trouble. Some of these mistakes could get you arrested, fined, or even banned from entering the country again. The United States might look familiar thanks to movies and TV shows, but the reality is way different than what you see on screen. There are laws, social rules, and cultural expectations that catch thousands of tourists off guard every single year. And I'm not talking about minor embarrassments. I'm talking about situations that can ruin your entire trip or worse. I've spent years traveling across all 50 states, and I've seen tourists make these mistakes over and over again. Some walked away with just a story to tell, others weren't so lucky. So whether you're visiting New York, Los Angeles, or some small town in the middle of nowhere, you need to know what's coming. Let's start with something that seems harmless but can land you in serious legal trouble faster than you'd think. Never, and I mean never, joke about bombs or weapons at an airport or anywhere near one. I know this sounds obvious, but you'd be shocked how many people think it's funny or don't realize how seriously Americans take these things. The TSA, that's the Transportation Security Administration, does not have a sense of humor about this stuff. Zero tolerance means exactly that. A few years back, a tourist from Europe made a joke about having a bomb in his luggage while going through security. He thought he was being funny. He thought the security officer would laugh it off. Instead, he was detained for hours, missed his flight, got banned from that airline, and faced potential criminal charges. His whole vacation was destroyed because of one stupid joke that took 3 seconds to say. The same goes for making gun gestures with your hands and saying anything that could be interpreted as a threat, even as a joke. Americans take security extremely seriously, especially after everything that's happened in the past few decades. What might be considered dark humor in your country could be seen as a legitimate threat here. Airport staff are trained to report everything, and they will not give you the benefit of the doubt. And this doesn't just apply to airports. Don't joke about this stuff at government buildings, train stations, sports stadiums, or really anywhere in public. The consequences aren't worth the laugh. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you even more. Jaywalking. Yes, crossing the street at the wrong place or at the wrong time is actually illegal in most American cities. And yes, you can get a ticket for it. In many countries, people cross the street wherever they want and drivers just deal with it. In America, that's not how it works. You're expected to use crosswalks and obey the pedestrian signals. Those little walking man and red hand symbols aren't suggestions. They're the law. I've seen cops write tickets to tourists who had no idea they were doing anything wrong. In cities like Los Angeles, New York, and Seattle, they actually have enforcement campaigns where police specifically look for jaywalkers. The fines can be anywhere from $50 to $200 depending on the city. That's money you probably wanted to spend on actually enjoying your trip, not paying a fine for crossing the street wrong. But here's the thing. It's not just about the fine. Jaywalking in America is genuinely dangerous because drivers don't expect you to be crossing outside of designated areas. American drivers are not constantly scanning for random pedestrians like they might be in other countries. They're watching the road, expecting everyone to follow the rules. So if you suddenly step out into traffic where you're not supposed to be, there's a real chance you could get hit. Thousands of pedestrians get injured or killed every year in the US, and a lot of those accidents happen because someone crossed at the wrong place or time. So use the crosswalks. Wait for the signal. It takes an extra 30 seconds and it could save your life, or at least save you from an expensive ticket. Here's another big one that catches tourists constantly: tipping. Americans have a completely different system when it comes to tipping, and if you don't follow it, you're going to have problems. In most countries, tipping is optional or just a small amount if the service was exceptional. In America, tipping is basically mandatory. It's not legally required, but is so deeply embedded in the culture that not tipping is considered extremely rude, and in some cases, people will actually confront you about it. The standard tip at restaurants is 15 to 20% of your total bill before tax. If the service was good, 20% is expected. If it was just okay, 15% is the minimum. Anything less than that and your server is going to remember you, and not in a good way. Why is tipping such a big deal here? Because most servers, bartenders, and delivery drivers make way below minimum wage. Their actual wage might be as low as $2 or $3 per hour. They depend on tips to make a living. The restaurant industry is structured around this system. It's messed up, sure, but that's how it works, and as a tourist, you need to adapt to it. You tip at sit-down restaurants, bars, coffee shops where someone makes your drink, hair salons, taxi rides, hotel housekeeping, food delivery, and pretty much any service where someone is directly helping you. The only places you typically don't tip are fast food restaurants where you order at a counter and nobody brings you your food. If you're with a group, check the bill carefully because many restaurants automatically add a gratuity for parties of 6 or more. That means the tip is already included, so you don't need to add more unless you want to, but you have to actually look for it because it's not always obvious. Not tipping or tipping too little marks you as either ignorant or cheap, and people will treat you differently because of it. I've seen situations where tourists didn't tip, didn't understand why everyone was upset, and ended up in actual arguments. Don't be that person. Next up, and this is crucial, do not, under any circumstances, try to bribe a police officer. This will get you arrested immediately. In some countries, paying off a cop to get out of a ticket or avoid trouble is just how things work. Everyone knows it happens, and it's almost expected. In the United States, that is a serious crime called bribery, and it will land you in jail. American police officers can't legally accept money or gifts in exchange for not enforcing the law, and if you try to give them money, they're required to arrest you on the spot. Even hinting at a bribe or asking if there's some way to take care of this right now can get you in massive trouble. Cops here are trained to watch for this, and they take it as a serious insult to their integrity. What you think might be a way to solve a problem quickly is actually going to make everything 10 times worse. If you get pulled over while driving or stopped by police for any reason, here's what you do. Be polite, follow their instructions exactly, keep your hands visible, and if you did something wrong, accept the ticket. You can deal with it later through the proper legal channels. Do not offer money, do not hint at money, do not even joke about it. The only exception is paying a fine at a police station or courthouse where there's an official process, but that's completely different from trying to hand a cop cash on the street. Let's talk about something that's way more common than you'd think. Taking photos or videos of people without permission. America has complicated laws about photography and privacy. Generally speaking, if you're in a public place, you can take photos of whatever you see, including other people. But there are major exceptions, and violating them can get you in legal trouble or, at minimum, cause a huge confrontation. You cannot take photos or videos in places where people have a reasonable expectation of privacy. That includes bathrooms, obviously, changing rooms, hotel rooms, locker rooms, or anywhere else people are changing clothes or in private situations. Taking photos in these places is a crime, and depending on the state, it could be classified as voyeurism or invasion of privacy. Even in public, taking photos of children you don't know is going to cause problems. Parents are extremely protective in the US, and if they see you photographing their kids, they're going to confront you. They might call the police, they might assume the worst. Even if you're just trying to capture a cute moment or the kid happened to be in your shot, it doesn't matter. People are very sensitive about this. If you want to take a photo that includes strangers, especially kids, the safest thing to do is ask first. Most people will say yes if you're polite about it, but don't just start snapping photos and assume it's fine. Also, in some places like military bases, certain government buildings, or near infrastructure like dams and power plants, photography might be restricted or prohibited entirely. There will usually be signs, but not always. If someone in authority tells you to stop taking photos, stop immediately and delete any photos they ask you to delete. Arguing about it will only make things worse. Here's something that surprises a lot of tourists. The legal drinking age in the United States is 21 everywhere. Not 18, not 19, 21. I know that in most countries the legal drinking age is 18 or even younger, but America is different and they enforce this law aggressively. Bars, clubs, restaurants, and stores will check your ID every single time, even if you look way older than 21. It's not personal. It's because the penalties for serving alcohol to someone underage are severe. The business can lose its license, get hit with massive fines, and the employee who served you could face criminal charges. If you're under 21, don't even try to buy alcohol or get into a bar that's 21 and over. Using a fake ID is a crime, and if you get caught, you could be arrested, fined, and even deported. It's not worth it. If you're over 21, make sure you have a valid ID with you at all times if you plan on drinking. Your passport works, or if you have an international driver's license, that usually works too. But some places are picky and might only accept passports from foreigners, so keep it handy. Also, you can't drink alcohol in public in most places. That means no walking down the street with a beer, no drinking in parks unless there's a special permit, and no open containers in your car, even if you're not driving. There are a few exceptions like Las Vegas where you can walk around with drinks, or New Orleans where it's allowed in certain areas, but those are rare. In most cities, drinking in public will get you a ticket or even arrested if you're causing problems. Now let's talk about something that could literally ruin your life if you're not careful. Drugs. America has extremely strict drug laws, and what might be decriminalized or tolerated in your country could land you in prison here. I'm talking about everything from marijuana to harder substances. Yes, marijuana is legal in some states for recreational use like California, Colorado, and Washington, but it's still illegal at the federal level, and it's completely illegal in other states. This creates a confusing situation. If you buy weed legally in Colorado and drive to Nebraska, where it's illegal, you can be arrested. If you try to bring it on a plane, even from one legal state to another, that's a federal crime because airports are under federal jurisdiction. And here's the kicker. Even if you're in a state where marijuana is legal, you can still get in trouble. If you're on federal land like a national park, it's illegal no matter what the state law says. If you're caught with any amount, you could be fined or arrested. For tourists specifically, there's another huge risk. If you're not a U.S. citizen and you're caught with drugs, even marijuana in a state where it's legal, that could affect your immigration status. You could be barred from entering the U.S. again in the future. Immigration authorities take drug offenses very seriously, and even a minor possession charge could follow you for years. As for harder drugs like cocaine, heroin, or methamphetamine, possession of any amount is a serious felony everywhere in the United States. Getting caught means prison time, deportation, and a permanent criminal record. Don't even think about it. Even prescription drugs can get you in trouble if you don't handle them correctly. If you're bringing prescription medication into the U.S., it needs to be in its original container with your name on it, and you should have a copy of the prescription or a letter from your doctor. Bringing in pills in unmarked bottles or bringing someone else's medication can look like drug trafficking, and that's not a situation you want to be in. Here's one that doesn't seem like a big deal but can cause serious problems. Smoking. Smoking laws in the United States are way stricter than in many other countries. You can't smoke inside most buildings. That includes restaurants, bars, hotels, airports, offices, and pretty much anywhere indoors. Most states have laws banning indoor smoking, and businesses that allow it can be shut down. Even outdoors, there are restrictions. You usually can't smoke within a certain distance of building entrances, sometimes 15 or 25 feet. You can't smoke in parks in many cities. Some beaches ban smoking entirely. College campuses are often completely smoke-free. If you light up in the wrong place, people will tell you to stop, and they won't be polite about it. You could also get fined. In places like New York City, smoking in parks can cost you $50 or more. Vaping has similar restrictions. Just because it's not technically smoking doesn't mean you can do it anywhere. Most places that ban cigarettes also ban vapes. And if you're thinking about other substances like smoking marijuana where it's legal, remember that you still can't smoke it in public in most places, even in states where it's legal to possess. You're expected to smoke on private property only. Let's move on to driving because this is where a lot of tourists make expensive and dangerous mistakes. First, if you're planning to drive in the U.S., make sure you understand whether your license is valid here. In most cases, tourists can drive with a valid license from their home country for a short period, usually up to 3 months depending on the state. An international driving permit, or IDP, is highly recommended and sometimes required. It's basically a translation of your license that American cops can read. But here's what you really need to know. American traffic laws are different and cops will pull you over for things you might not expect. Running a red light or stop sign is taken extremely seriously. Cops watch for this constantly and the fines are high. In some states, there are cameras at intersections that automatically ticket you if you run a red light. Speed limits are enforced strictly and they change constantly. You might be on a highway with a 65-mile-per-hour limit and then suddenly it drops to 45 because you're entering a town. You're expected to notice these signs and adjust immediately. Cops love to sit right where the speed limit drops because they know people won't slow down in time. If you get pulled over, here's the procedure. Pull over as soon as it's safe to do so. Turn off your engine. Keep your hands on the steering wheel where the officer can see them. Wait for the officer to come to your window. Do not get out of the car unless they tell you to. Do not reach for anything unless they ask for it, and you tell them what you're doing first. American cops are on edge during traffic stops because there are a lot of guns in this country, and they need to make sure you're not a threat. Be polite, answer their questions, provide your license and registration when asked, and accept the ticket if they give you one. Do not argue. Do not offer money. Do not make sudden movements. Just be calm and respectful, and the situation will be over quickly. One more thing about driving. Do not drink and drive. The legal limit is a blood alcohol content of 0.08% in most states, but even below that you can be charged with impaired driving if the cop thinks you're not fit to drive. The penalties are severe. You'll be arrested on the spot, your car will be impounded, you'll have to pay for bail, lawyer fees, court costs, and fines that can total thousands of dollars. If you cause an accident while drunk, you're looking at prison time. Just don't do it. Use Uber, Lyft, a taxi, or public transportation. Now let's talk about something that seems minor but can create big problems. How you interact with people. Americans have specific cultural expectations about personal space and conversation, and violating them can make people very uncomfortable or even angry. Personal space is a big deal. People expect about an arm's length of distance during normal conversation. Standing closer than that, especially with strangers, makes people uncomfortable. They'll step back, and if you keep moving closer, they'll think you're being aggressive or creepy. Physical contact with strangers is generally not okay unless it's a handshake in a professional setting. Don't touch people on the arm, shoulder, or anywhere else during conversation unless you know them well. Don't kiss people on the cheek as a greeting unless you're absolutely sure that's okay with them. A lot of cultures do this, but in America it's not common, and people might react badly. Eye contact is expected during conversation. Not making eye contact makes you seem suspicious, dishonest, or disrespectful, but staring too intensely also makes people uncomfortable. It's a balance. Small talk is common, especially in the South and Midwest. Strangers might say hello, ask how you're doing, or comment on the weather. This is normal and considered polite. You're expected to respond briefly and politely, even if you don't actually want to have a conversation. Just say, "Good, thanks. How are you?" and move on. However, there are topics you should avoid with people you don't know well. Politics is a big one. Americans are incredibly divided politically right now, and bringing up politics with strangers or even acquaintances can lead to heated arguments. Religion is another sensitive topic. People's income, how much they paid for things, their weight, or their age are all considered rude questions unless you know someone very well. Here's something else that trips up a lot of tourists. Bathrooms. Public bathrooms in America have gaps in the stall doors. I know it's weird. I know it makes no sense. But that's how they're built. You can see out, people can see in, and everyone just pretends not to notice. It's uncomfortable, but you get used to it. Also, don't expect to find public bathrooms everywhere like you might in other countries. Your best bet is to go into a coffee shop like Starbucks, a fast food restaurant, or a store like Target. Most of these places will let you use the bathroom even if you don't buy anything, but it's considered polite to at least buy something small. Let's talk about shopping and money because there are some things that confuse every tourist. Sales tax is not included in the price you see on the shelf. This shocks everyone. If something costs $10 on the shelf, you're going to pay more than $10 at the register because sales tax gets added at checkout. The amount varies by state and even by city. Some places have no sales tax, others can be as high as 10% or more. Always assume you'll pay more than the sticker price and have extra money ready. Tipping comes up again in situations you might not expect. If you order food for delivery, tip the driver. If you get your hair cut, tip the stylist. If someone helps you carry your bags at a hotel, tip them. If someone gives you a tour, tip the guide. It's just part of how things work here. Credit cards are accepted almost everywhere and many places prefer them over cash. Some businesses, especially smaller ones or things like food trucks, might be cash only, but that's becoming rare. If you're using a credit card from another country, make sure your bank knows you're traveling so they don't freeze your card thinking it's fraud. Here's a weird one, but it matters. Never call the police unless it's actually an emergency. The emergency number is 911, and it's for life-threatening situations, serious crimes in progress, or accidents where someone is hurt. Calling 911 for something minor like a noise complaint or a lost item ties up resources that might be needed for real emergencies. And in some places, you can actually be fined for misusing the system. If you need police help for something non-urgent, look up the local police department's non-emergency number online and call that instead. Now here's something that can get you in trouble without you even realizing it. Littering. Americans are serious about keeping public spaces clean, and littering is illegal everywhere. The fines vary, but they can be $100 or more. In some places, especially national parks, littering can result in much higher fines or even criminal charges if you're dumping large amounts of trash. This includes cigarette butts, gum, food wrappers, bottles, basically anything you drop on the ground. Find a trash can. They're everywhere. If you can't find one, hold on to your trash until you do. Let's talk about something really important. How you dress and present yourself can actually affect how you're treated. America is generally pretty casual about clothing. You can wear jeans and a t-shirt almost anywhere, but there are exceptions. Nicer restaurants, especially in big cities, might have dress codes. Some clubs won't let you in if you're wearing sneakers or athletic clothes. Religious sites like churches or synagogues might expect you to dress modestly. More importantly, there are certain items of clothing that can cause serious problems. Wearing anything that looks like it could be gang-related, especially in certain neighborhoods, can make you a target. Wearing clothing with offensive slogans or images can get you kicked out of businesses or even confronted by people who are offended. And if you're visiting during winter in northern states, dress for the weather. It gets cold. Like, actually dangerously cold. Tourists underestimate this constantly and end up miserable or even getting hypothermia. Check the forecast and dress appropriately. Here's one more thing that's crucial. Do not overstay your visa. Whatever visa you entered on, whether it's a tourist visa, visa waiver, or any other type, has a specific expiration date. You must leave the country before that date. Overstaying your visa is a serious immigration violation. It can result in being banned from entering the U.S. for years or even permanently. It goes on your record, and it will affect any future attempts to get visas for the U.S. or possibly other countries. If something comes up and you think you might need to stay longer, you need to apply for an extension before your current visa expires. Don't wait until the last minute and don't assume it's not a big deal. Immigration takes this very seriously. So let's quickly recap the major points. Don't joke about bombs or weapons. Use crosswalks and obey traffic signals. Tip 15 to 20% at restaurants. Never try to bribe a cop. Be careful about taking photos of strangers, especially kids. The drinking age is 21 everywhere. Drug laws are strict even for marijuana. Smoking is banned indoors and restricted outdoors. Drive carefully and follow all traffic laws. Respect personal space and avoid sensitive topics with strangers. Remember that tax isn't included in prices. Don't litter, dress appropriately, and do not overstay your visa. The United States can be an amazing place to visit. There's incredible diversity, stunning natural beauty, world-class cities, and experiences you can't get anywhere else. But it's also a place with strict laws and cultural expectations that can be very different from what you're used to. The tourists who have the best time are the ones who do their research, show respect, and follow the rules. Most Americans are friendly and welcoming to tourists. They want you to have a good time, but you have to meet them halfway by understanding how things work here and making an effort to fit in. When you do that, you'll find that people are happy to help you, give you recommendations, and make sure you have an incredible trip. The mistakes I've talked about in this video are all avoidable. Now you know what to watch out for, and you can plan accordingly. Do your research on the specific places you're visiting because every state and city has its own quirks and rules. Stay aware of your surroundings. When in doubt, observe what locals are doing and follow their lead. America is big, diverse, and complex. What's true in New York might not be true in Texas. What's normal in California might be weird in Montana. But the core principles I've covered here apply everywhere. Follow the law, be respectful, tip appropriately, and you'll be fine. Your trip to the United States should be memorable for all the right reasons, not because you got arrested, fined, or deported for something you didn't even know was wrong. Now you're prepared, and you know what to avoid. Subscribe for more travel tips that'll keep you out of trouble.